Hello and welcome to National Herald. In today's episode of Pursuit of Truth, we are going to find out the truth about who Rajiv Gandhi was. We are going to talk about his vision and the work and the contribution he had in the first 5 years of his term. It is often said that India would have been a very different nation if he would have got another term, and that it was his vision that brought us to the 21st century, that truly modernized India. I have with me Mr. Sam Pitroda. He's known as the father of Telecom in India. He was one of the closest friends of Rajiv Gandhi, and he had been the advisor to Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. So Rajiv Gandhi gave us a vision for the modern India in his first ever election victory speech. And I heard that speech. It is available on the Internet Archive in 1985. He talked about a range of projects and dreams that he had for India. And he achieved a lot, although in 5 years, not everything can be done, but he achieved a lot. What do you think how much did you think he achieved? What was his greatest contribution? And how far have we come today in comparison to the vision that he gave?
Thank you for the opportunity. Rajiv Gandhi had a dream to take India into 21st century with respect, dignity, confidence, and commitment to growth and development. Rajiv Gandhi was very clear that to take India to 21st century, one, he had to build institutions. Building institutions required planting seeds of the right kinds. He was also clear that to take India into 21st century, civil society will have to play an important role. Only government and business cannot do this. Third important thing, that he was convinced science and technology had to play an important role, which included scientific mindset, bringing technology as a tool to expedite the process of modernization and development. And we had to do it from bottom up and top down. But the core had to be to lift people at the bottom of the economic pyramid. That had to be the core idea. That you cannot take India into 21st century if you don't really lift large number of people. And as a result, he decided to focus on education, health, and many other important issues. So I think Rajiv Gandhi accomplished a lot, but don't look at that in terms of 5-year period. Look at that in terms of seeds he planted, institutions he set up, direction he gave. A simple example is Telecom and IT. Then we had 2 million telephones. It used to take 10 years to get a telephone connection. Rajiv Gandhi was convinced that Telecom and IT will change the face of India. To do that, we had to come up with Indian version of development and not just take Western model where we import products. So he decided to support the idea of building indigenous development, Indian talent, Indian model with focus on rural communication, focus on access to telephone as opposed to telephone density, hiring a lot of young people to train for the workforce of tomorrow, made IT and telecom sexy for young people to get into. All of these things have given us such an edge globally today that from 2 million phones, we have gone to 1.2 billion phones. From zero in software exports to $150 billion in software export. So you have to see this in light of a process and potentially unleashed, as opposed to what did he accomplish in 5 years. Today, India is known as the IT powerhouse in the world. We have companies worth 100 billion and 50 billion and 60 billion in IT in India, which was unthinkable in 80s. But the seeds we planted then got us where we are. So I think Rajiv Gandhi's success has to be seen in different light. It was the idea of India that he had. It was the commitment to democracy, commitment to freedom, commitment to lift people at the bottom of the economic pyramid, commitment to use technology to solve our problem, that we need to measure Rajiv Gandhi's accomplishment. Another great example beside telecom would be polio vaccine. India did not make any substantial vaccine in mid-80s. We knew that we had the largest number of polio patients in the world, and we were importing polio vaccine. So Rajiv Gandhi made a commitment that we will start producing polio vaccine in India, which was a huge idea in those days. But he said, look, if we have the largest number of polio people in the world, we should be producing polio vaccine on our own. Yeah. And everyone said it cannot be done. He encouraged us to do that. Today, we are the largest producer of vaccines in the world. Mm. Those seeds were planted by Rajiv Gandhi. We eradicated polio. Credit really goes to Rajiv Gandhi. Right. He was concerned about the health of children. So he introduced immunization mission, where we immunized 20 million pregnant women and 20 million newborn every year. Look at the scale of it then. And it required courage to launch programs like that. He wanted to increase milk production so our children have enough milk. He called Kurian and I had a meeting with him, and he said, Sam, we need to launch a mission on dairy development. Today, we are the largest producer of milk in the world. So I think he took huge steps. We don't give him credit for a lot of this because we tend to be very narrow-minded. We are one of those people who tend to look at glass always half empty and not glass half full. Look at his contribution to Panchayat Raj. Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't get implemented properly. But the Panchayat Raj was really an idea to decentralize government because he was convinced that centralized approach is not the answer to India's development. Okay. Besides Telecom and IT, he launched 6 technology missions. Literacy. Then literacy was close to 30%. Now it is close to 80%. Why? Because we launched technology mission on literacy. In that mission, let me tell you, there were 2 million volunteers in those days working on literacy mission.
2 million volunteers.
Volunteers working on literacy mission. People don't understand. People have no idea. He launched mission on rural drinking water. We had 40,000 villages with guinea worm. I don't know whether you know about guinea worm. Guinea worm is a thing that comes from your body like a spaghetti. It's a waterborne disease. India had 40,000 villages, 37 or something, with guinea worm. Rajiv Gandhi launched mission on water to eradicate guinea worm. We have completely eradicated guinea worm from India. Do you know the effort it took? People have no idea what it took. We had to build safe wells because the disease comes from the foot. So we had to prevent ladies going into these waters with their bare foot. Okay. We had excess iron removal plants, excess fluoride removal plants.
From the water.
From water mission. We set up water testing laboratory in every district. Okay. And we provided drinking water to 100,000 more villages. People don't remember that. You know, I remember when Motilal Vora used to be around, he always used to talk about Zabwa. He used to say, Mr. Pitroda, what you did in Jhabwa on water mission was remarkable. It changed that entire area because of water mission. Okay. So you had mission on literacy, drinking water, immunization, cooking oil, oil seeds, telecom, and dairy. I'm talking about just the subjects I know. There are other people who will tell you more about other areas, like Manishankar Iyer could tell you more about Panchayat Raj.
Right.
Okay. And I'm sure the economist will tell you more about the liberalization effort.
I can also personally, being a woman, I can add that his focus on women's empowerment, 33% reservation in the grassroots level for women. And he would always speak, even at the Panchayati Raj Sammelan, he spoke about how the women should come forward and be allowed to speak and given a chance. So definitely,
I know, I can tell you from my experience, many times lots of women leaders will go to him and Prime Minister couldn't have time to listen to everybody. You know, it's impossible. So many times he will send them to me. And these women will come to me and said, I had a meeting with Prime Minister. Now he wants you to follow up on this. And then next time when I meet him, he would even remind me, Sam, did you talk to such and such? So he was very keen to follow up and really allow people the freedom and autonomy they needed to exercise their dream.
Why do you think that his achievements are not remembered enough? Is it because the governance back in that time was not so focused on advertising their work and communicating it that we have done? I mean, today, even
we communicated a lot in those days. We communicated a lot in those days. I personally remember going to every state, meeting with every chief minister on technology missions. And similarly, other colleagues really talked to press, but then the press was very focused and narrow and government controlled. I'll tell you the first time when Rajiv Gandhi and I talked about starting a Doordarshan program in the morning. People in Doordarshan say, who will watch TV in the morning? Is that people watch TV only in the evening? Don't even spend time on, people have to go to work. They are busy. Why are you complicating life? That was the kind of resistance we had. So we had to work in an environment which was not receptive to a lot of change. Okay. I remember
It's very
when I
interesting.
talked about this.
Yeah, please carry on, sir.
Once Rajiv Gandhi said, Sam, why don't you, V. Krishnamurti and Abid Hussain, go talk to the Planning Commission Deputy Chairman about privatizing some of the industries. And he wanted this process to be bottom up, didn't want to force it down from him. He could have called the Deputy Minister of Planning Commission. He said, no, let him initiate it. So we went there. We spent an hour with Madhavji Solanki then and talked about privatization. Madhavji Solanki was not sold. So he said, okay, let him be convinced. I think that style of leadership was important then, where you could carry people with you at the same time, accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. Okay.
What do you say? That's a striking difference between what we see today in the name of leadership and what.
Of course, I think today the big difference I see is really in three areas. One, institutions are not functioning independently. This is the impression you get. Okay, this is what people tell you from the ground. Those who don't have public voice tell you this. And you got to listen to public wisdom. Wisdom doesn't come from top. Wisdom doesn't come from media. People's wisdom tell us today that institutions are not independent. Judiciary, police, income tax office, media, universities,
CBI.
Okay, all of these institutions take signals from the top and undermine their autonomy. They want to please bosses and not constitution that they must stand by with.
Yeah.
So I think people in the institutions have to realize that their loyalty lies to the constitution and not to individual. And I think that is being undermined today. That's the voices of the people that I hear. I don't have all the proof. Okay. But I talk to lots of people. And all of the people that I talk to, I would say majority of the people I talk to, maybe I talk to different groups of people, but the people I talk to say that this is the biggest threat to our democracy. Our democracy is being hijacked. Our societies are being divided in the name of religion. Our diversity is not respected. System is not inclusive, it is exclusive. And that is a big difference today. Second big difference today is really civil society has no role to play. All major policy decisions are made by government, maybe with little bit support from the business, but no input of any substance from civil society. Civil society in India is very active, very big, one of the biggest in the world. There are some very good people who understand the real issues on environment, water, energy, education, health, women's rights, child labor. And we need to really support them. And that support has been killed by government authorities through asking irrelevant questions, through income tax raids, through false allegations, unnecessary court cases. I mean, this cannot go on. Okay. I hate to bring this to your attention, but National Herald, we have a court case for 7 years. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, look, to me, it is not fair to file a court case like this and not come to conclusion that institutions are undermined, civil society is not allowed to function, and scientific temper is not there. Okay. When people talk about histories and people talk about, benefit of cow dung and all this stuff without any scientific proof, and leaders talk about this, it don't make sense.
Prominent leaders.
Okay. So I think those are the challenges, that people talk about. I'm just reflecting on what I hear.
Absolutely. Sir, how you said about how all he had a vision and that was rooted in technical advancement and scientific temperament. Do you think it came from him, he himself being a technocrat? He's a pilot. We also hear that he was he was an enthusiast of ham radio. If you can reflect a little bit about him, he is personally having a technical or a technocrat, approach to his personal life.
He was tech savvy. He, in his profession, dealt with buttons and displays and controls as a pilot. And he liked to build things himself. I've seen him changing bulb. Okay, as a prime minister.
Wow.
Okay, he'll himself change a bulb. Okay. I mean, Prime Minister of India doesn't have to change bulb. Absolutely. But it's better to change it myself than ask somebody to come here and schedule and this and that. Right now I have free time. I just tells me, Sam, give me a screwdriver, and he just goes and changes or whatever he wanted to fix, he fixed. Okay. So he was that kind of a person. Okay. I liked him very much. We had a great chemistry. We worked very well together. I sort of personally believe that he gave meaning to my life. I was just an engineer, and he gave meaning to my life, gave me a mission to connect India, help connect India. And it has been the most satisfying thing in my life. I could have made millions and millions, would not have had the same satisfaction that I have, fulfillment I have. And I think he was the architect of my dream, in a sense. Okay. So I miss him. I miss him. I think India doesn't realize the loss.
Very true indeed, sir. So he, like you have already said, there was resistance, and he brought quite a few paradigm shifts. I already mentioned about, in politics and governments, I already mentioned about giving women reservation, 33% reservation. And then the 5 days week in government offices, reducing the voting age.
Age to 18. I mean, that's a big contribution.
These were all paradigm shifts.
Absolutely.
So, I'm curious, do you remember how the opposition of that time reacted to these paradigm shifts? What kind of resistance were there?
First of all, we were in substantial majority then. Those 5 years, we had the best majority you could ask for. So on one hand, you could steamroll anything. But on the other hand, there was discussion in the parliament on all of these issues. There was debate. There was some resistance. Of course, none of these things were rammed through. Okay, like some of the things people talk about today.
Without any discussions, bills are getting passed.
Parliament discussion on these issues. Rajiv Gandhi will show up in the parliament. He will talk and answer questions. Okay, he will respond to people because he respected the institution of parliament. He respected discussion in the parliament. Okay. So it was a very different environment.
Unlike today, when we have bills getting passed in 10 minutes without any discussion.
Yeah.
Right. We also hear stories about how the government babus were reluctant to use computers. And do you have any anecdotes to share?
Oh, many, 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 many.
Please share some.
Well, in those days, we didn't have PowerPoint presentations. People used to go with files to talk, with a big stack of files they will carry with them to talk. And Rajiv Gandhi decided that he would like a presentation. Though there were no PowerPoint presentations, he wanted on every topic a sort of a projector with slides, transparencies, so he can see it on the screen and summarize it, and not open file and say this and that, and don't go into micromanagement. And bureaucracy was not used to it. Bureaucracy has never made, presentation like that. Okay. So it was a new thing.
So the ushering in of that modern culture and modern
And computers was a classical example. We wanted to computerize railway reservation. Railway reservation,
right.
Big issue.
It became a
And
big
when
issue.
we decided to computerize, unions
Okay.
objected to it. We had to work with the union.
The railway unions.
Railway union saying we don't
Okay.
want computerization because it will eliminate jobs.
Right.
Okay. So we had that resistance all along. We had that resistance in telecom. Okay. So we had problems everywhere in terms of change. But we navigated that change through dialogue, discussions. Okay. And it was a very different time. Privatization was considered a bad word then.
Yeah.
Okay. See, you're talking about 35 years ago. Okay. Now it's all sort of, normal thing to do. Okay.
Now everything is private, getting private.
What really put India in trouble, according to me, is a lie that VP Singh and the government propagated, or his team, that Bofors was a scandal.
Yes.
So they started this slogan that Gali Gali mein Sor hai, Rajiv Gandhi Chor hai. That was a total lie. And that slogan sold. In India, lies sell. Lies sell well. This particular lie sold. We didn't realize the impact of that. And Rajiv Gandhi lost election. In spite of doing all these great things, Rajiv Gandhi lost election because of one lie. And that lie basically killed him. Okay, because security was not as strong. He was no longer a prime minister. Okay. Yeah. And in India, I have learned now, based on my experiences for the last 40 years, is that lies spread like wildfire. I would like to know a little bit about his policies towards China, Sri Lanka, and again, what kind of reactions were there, what kind of apprehensions. Yeah, I may not be qualified to answer this properly. There are other people who are more capable, but I will give you my layman's view. He wanted peace in the neighborhood. He realized that we need to really work with our neighbors, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, and others, Bangladesh, to really create one SARC, one market. He was convinced that we need common market in that part of the world. Okay. So he worked very hard for peace in that part of the world. He also believed that we needed good relationship with America. So he went to America a couple of times, a very good equation with Reagan then. Okay, became personal friends of Bush, went to visit Bush in Houston, and also had good relationship with Gorbachev, Soviet Union. We had this um, Festival of India, where we went to Russia or Soviet Union. And I particularly was given the responsibility to build Science and Technology Museum exhibition in Moscow, Tashkent, and St. Petersburg. We had similarly Festival of India in US and in France. Now that was a major initiative, which no one has taken. Okay, after that. That was a huge task to celebrate India in these three countries, one Europe, Soviet Union, and US. Massive task. Just on Science and Technology exhibition, we had to, fly 2747s full of hardware from India to Soviet Union. Okay. And he did all that, okay, because he wanted to improve relationships and offer a hand of friendship to both Soviet Union, US, Europe. So he wasn't really vindictive. That was not part of his nature. He was very open, very straightforward, very honest. Maybe other people felt he was naive, but I would rather be naive than cunning and manipulative.
Humble.
Yeah.
I would say humility and maybe a little bit of not telling himself that I did this and I did that, because
absolutely. And he also was very conscious of every little detail. I'll give you a couple of examples. Once we had a dinner with Italian Prime Minister. So there's a state dinner at Hyderabad House. And lots of people are invited. My wife and I were invited, along with other dignitaries. And as we go there, people are coming one by one. And all Indian people are talking to Indians, and all Italians are talking to Italians. Okay, having a drink. And Prime Minister comes in, both Prime Minister come in, sit in a special place. And I get a little note from security guy. Security guy comes to me and says, Mr. Pitroda, there is a note for you from Prime Minister. So I open that little white note. It says, Sam, please break 2 circles.
So the groups that were created.
Yeah, he saw it that, this is not a place for Indians to talk to Indians and Italians to talk to Italians. Somebody had to break that. Okay. So he sent it to me. So immediately I went to Italian circle and I said, I'm Sam Pitroda, advisor to the Prime Minister. Let me introduce you to my colleagues. This is such and such, this is such and such. And we started talking. Okay. So he was, as Prime Minister, even conscious of things like that. We had big meetings. Once we had a meeting of, 40th years of India's independence. Probably 300 people in the audience. Prime Minister is there. I'm sitting all the way at the back. And he is constantly sending me notes. Sam, this. Okay. So he sees something wrong. And immediately he wants to make a note of it and say, Sam, fix this, fix that, or something else. The point is, he was also involved in details. Okay. He was concerned about
thoughtful and
every event, every person. Okay. It's very human.
I'm trying to ask, how do you react when you hear these kind of blatant...
You ignore it, saying, if you have money, you can propagate lies. Okay. If you're willing to spend money with Google, Facebook, Twitter on algorithms that favor your point of view, you can do that. If you Google me, Sam Pitroda, somebody will just say, okay, I'm going to spend, 50 lakh rupees to make sure that when you Google Sam Pitroda, first chapter that comes in, he's corrupt. So it's okay. Big deal. I don't care. I don't pay attention to it.
What's the worst criticism or the worst lie you have heard about?
Worst lie I heard about in Rajiv Gandhi's time was that, gali gali mein so hai, Rajiv Gandhi chor hai. That was the worst lie. It is absolute wrong. How could you say this to a man who has given so much to India, planted so many great ideas, gave so many opportunities to people, was concerned about taking India into 21st century? How could you lie for a man like this? Just for power? Just so that you can get more votes? Sad. Okay. It hurts me personally because I have seen it from the close quarter. Shame on these people.
This is going to be a little hurtful, maybe, but I would want you to take us to the day, that dreadful day. You were in Delhi that day, so if you can share your memories, what was the first thought that came to you?
Those were the election days. We were working closely together. I was deeply involved in the campaign with him, along with many others. And I had spoken to him day before. He was going to South India. And some of our friends like Suman Dubey was with him. And I was at home in Delhi. Slept a little early that day. And before I could sleep, I got a call from a gentleman who wrote my biography, Mayank Chaya. And I picked up phone and he said, Rajiv Gandhi has been killed in an assassination. And I couldn't believe, as if earth has just fallen from my feet. Yeah. I was shocked. I didn't even know what to say, how to comprehend. So I told him, I said, I'll call you back. Okay, we talked a little bit. And then immediately I got a call from Sheshan, TN Sheshan. He was a good friend. So TN Sheshan called me and said, Sam, come home, you and Anu, because you will have better security at my house, because he was then election commissioner. I said, no, Mr. Session, I will stay at home. Nothing will happen. Nobody's going to hurt me. But he said violence could break. I said, fine, if violence breaks, we have to stop it. Okay. So then immediately I started getting lots of phone calls from everybody. Okay. And we were on phone constantly, including with some radio channels from Canada and this and that and all. And couldn't comprehend. I basically lost my heart. And I realized that my dream, or our dream, to take India into 21st century is going to be derailed. Is going to be delayed because we were convinced that we'll be in power next, one way or the other. Okay. I was disheartened. And naturally, next morning, everybody got together at 10 Janpat and, saw his body come, saw a lot of dignitaries come for his funeral, went to his funeral. And it was heartbreaking to see the family, Sonia, both children, where they were very young. And this came right after Mrs. Indira Gandhi's assassination. So the family really sacrificed a lot for India. And when people criticize them today, they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't understand the commitment to values, to India, as custodian of the idea of India. Rajiv Gandhi was a custodian of the idea of India rooted in Gandhian values: democracy, freedom, human rights, inclusion, diversity, truth, trust, love, concern for people at the bottom of the economic pyramid. These are all fundamental ideas. And this is what the idea of India is all about. So when people talk about Gandhi family, this, that, I see that as a responsibility of a custodian of the idea of India. So when you are resisting Gandhi family, you are basically resisting the
Right.
idea of India. See, people don't understand that. Okay. Rahul Gandhi is a custodian of the idea of India, along with all of us. It's not that he's the only one. Okay. But that is the focal point. And we have to build on the idea of India. So when they attack Gandhi family, basically you are attacking the idea of India, saying we don't believe in this idea of India. Okay. We don't believe in democracy. We don't believe in human rights. We don't believe in truth. We don't believe in trust. We don't believe in love. We don't believe in inclusion. So it's exactly opposite. Love, we want to promote hate. Truth, we want to promote lies. Trust, we don't trust anybody. It is mistrust. Okay. Democracy, we want control. Freedom, we will curb. Okay. That's what the message is. Inclusion, we want to divide society. It is that which they are resisting. Okay. So I think today India is at a crossroad. People of India will have to decide which way we go. Ultimate power is with the people. People will have to decide, is this the kind of India we want to build, where religions plays an important role, where people get divided, where government become authoritarian, where human freedom is curbed, where press is controlled, okay, where democracy is undermined, judiciary plays to the tune of the government, or we want to build the India that our founding fathers had, that is embedded in our constitution. You take your pick.
We are immensely thankful to Mr. Sam Pitroda for sharing these heartfelt stories from the past. Like God, truth can only be found when you seek it by pursuit of truth. Just like God cannot be found just by reading books and you have to go out and do your tapasya, similarly, truth has to be found and cannot be available on the messages that are dropped into your WhatsApp. So please keep watching Pursuit of Truth and keep seeking truth outside the WhatsApp. Please subscribe to National Herald YouTube channel and don't forget to click on the bell icon. Thank you for watching. See you next time.